let's pay a visit today to Friendship Park. This is at the westernmost end of the US-Mexico border. It's about 6.5 miles to the west of the San Ysidro port of entry, which, as many of you know, is the busiest land border crossing in the world. And on the ground at Friendship Park is a space that was designed to be a place of binational and cross-cultural encounter. You can see on this map that the patterns of development on the two sides of the border have evolved very, very differently across many years. On the Mexican side of the border, of course, the city of Tijuana grew right up and up against the border. And so you see the urban neighborhood of Playas de Tijuana with houses built up right against the wall, the historic Tijuana Bull Ring. And as we draw in even closer, you can see the row of restaurants overlooking the beach. And many of you have been in those restaurants and been to this location and know what a vital and vibrant, colorful place it is on the Mexican side of the wall. I want to just say draw a little bit of a contrast between the Mexican side, which is filled, as I mentioned, with life and color and food and music and culture and all kinds of fun, a perpetual fiesta on the Mexican side. I want to draw a contrast to what the experience is like on the US side of the park. As you can see, this location has been double walled, which is to say that there are two border walls that define a no man's land between the two walls. Just a brief word of history here so you can understand how it came to be that Friendship Park came to be walled off on the US side. You know, it's really been a 3 decades long campaign under both Democratic and Republican administrations to harden the US-Mexico border. And that effort really began with real earnest under the presidency of Bill Clinton. And the Clinton administration began by hardening the border at ports of entry to prevent unauthorized crossings at these urban crossings, San Diego, Tijuana, El Paso, Juarez, all the way to Brownsville, Matamoros. The idea was that to harden the border between the ports of entry to discourage unauthorized crossings, with the idea that traffic should be channeled through those ports of entry. We won't go into the long history of that policy, but suffice it to say that people desiring entry to the United States have proven far more determined and desperate and ingenious in securing entry to the United States and have gone to desperate measures, including hiking out through the mountains of California, the deserts of Arizona, even at the risk of their own lives. Nonetheless, presidents on both parties continued this policy of hardening the border between the ports of entry. That included the San Diego sector of US Border Patrol, which is the 60 westernmost miles of the border. But for the longest time, the federal government had not been able to build a second wall, a double wall here at this location. And that's because the surrounding area, as you can see on the United States side of the wall, had never been developed. It's an ecological preserve called the Tijuana Estuary, and also within it is the bounds of California's Borderfield State Park. And so for a variety of reasons, the land was owned by the state of California, and there were all kinds of environmental regulations that governed the use of the land. The federal government had not been able to build a double wall at this location until after 9/11, when the politics really changed dramatically. As you all remember, post 9/11, everything and under the sun was considered a matter of national security. And with the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, the US Congress ceded to the executive branch an extraordinary authority to build walls along the US-Mexico border. In 2005, Congress passed the Real ID Act, and they attached a rider to that piece of legislation that afforded the Secretary of Homeland Security the authority to waive any and all laws deemed necessary to expedite the construction of border wall. And in fact, the Department of Homeland Security has waived dozens and dozens of laws on dozens and dozens of occasions to build border wall where otherwise they would not be able to. And that's how this last westernmost stretch of the border here at San Diego Tijuana came to be double walled. Beginning in 2008, the federal government began to extend the double wall along this coastal stretch, or toward the coast here near Friendship Park. The federal government took the land by eminent domain from the state of California. And then across the years 2008, 9, 10, and 11, built these double walls, which you can see right here. You can see the historic Tijuana Lighthouse, and we'll go right down on the ground here in just a minute. But just so you can see from the aerial view, you can see how this double wall works. The first border wall is exactly on the international boundary, defines the international boundary, or demarcates the international boundary. The second wall is about 90 feet to the north and creates this no man's land for San Diego Border Patrol. They can control who goes in, and they can arrest people who go in for trespassing or apprehend people who may cross from the Mexican side without authorization. And they have the place supremely well controlled. They've got cameras and ground sensors and motion detectors and infrared. The place is entirely tricked out. And you can see if somebody were to jump the wall here near Friendship Park, the first wall, they would be apprehended before they could hardly even get to the second wall, because on either side of that second wall is a paved high-speed patrol road. I've seen Border Patrol cars traveling 70, 80 miles an hour on that high-speed road. So if somebody jumps into this no man's land from the Mexican side, a Border Patrol agent can speed to get to them before they're able to enter the United States or clear the second wall. So it really is one of the most highly controlled parts of the border. It's very difficult to cross here without authorization. The only time that really any significant numbers of people would try to cross at this location when we have heavy coastal fog, which of course makes it harder to detect unauthorized crossings. But with the walling off of Friendship Park in the years, with the construction of this second wall, the waiving of laws, the seizing of land from the state of California, and the construction of double walls, the experience on the US side of Friendship Park, which had been a meeting place for generations, and about which I'll say more in a minute, the experience on the US side was just dramatically changed. I've talked to old timers in San Diego who remember, riding down to Monument Mesa on their bikes and dragging their bikes across a chain fence and riding around Tijuana, buying tacos, and then returning to San Diego at the end of the afternoon. But now if you go to Friendship Park on the US side, I'll give you a ground's eye view so you can see what you encounter. It's the same beautiful sight as ever overlooking the Pacific Ocean, but as you approach this barrier, you're approaching federal property line. And here you can see the second wall. That second wall has a gate in it, and through several years of conversation with San Diego Border Patrol, our Friends of Friendship Park Coalition advocated that San Diego Border Patrol should establish regular hours of visitation, or regular hours when people would be able to visit at Friendship Park. And in 2011, San Diego Border Patrol committed to opening the park on Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can see the sign here says maximum occupancy 25. They've since reduced that number to 10, which is a terrible reduction of access to the public. But at least for many years, there has been regular access Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., where Border Patrol officials will open this gate, allowing the people enter inside the park, get up right against that primary border wall, and visit with family and friends on the US side. I just want to share a couple of quick stories so that you can understand the importance of this binational meeting place to thousands of families. The families that come to be reunited at Friendship Park, almost without exception, are not undocumented in the United States. If you're undocumented, we get lots of inquiries from people, and we can't, in good honesty or good conscience, encourage them to visit, because the place is, of course, entirely, swarming with Border Patrol agents. The vast majority of families that visited the park are trapped in a particular circumstance where they have members in the United States, legally residing in the United States, but who have some kind of a status that prevents them from leaving the country. So maybe they have DACA, they're dreamers. Maybe they have a legal permanent residence, but they fear that if they leave the country, they may jeopardize their standing. Maybe they have an immigration case pending before the courts for themselves or a family member, and likewise they feel that if there's a pattern of them entering and exiting the country, that may compromise their immigration case. Or they may be on parole, very common experience. Same one I just had this last Sunday. People on parole are told by their judge, 5 years parole, If you leave the country, you violate the terms of your parole, we'll throw you back in jail. So all these people, for all these reasons, are trapped in the United States. And if people like these have family members in Mexico who can't get a visa to come to the United States, then Friendship Park becomes the only place in the world that they can see their loved ones. There's a handful of stories I could tell, but I'll just share a couple. This is a glimpse of what it's like for a family to visit at Friendship Park. Many families travel even up to thousands of miles from both countries to see their loved ones.
One of our goals is to have a good community engagement and to create a relationship, at least a work relationship with them, which at this point I think is a very good one. But the friendship circle is located within the United States, so all the laws apply. If I see something that makes me believe that the person may be illegal in the country, I will arrest the person and I will take them to the station to get it processed.
We're gathering at this historic location to remind ourselves of deeper truths, that we're friends, that we are not enemies, that we're neighbors.
When I ask families or other visitors, how'd your visit go? They're very, very sad to be separated from their loved ones, but they're also incredibly grateful and thankful to have had the chance. Families haven't seen each other 10, 15, 20 years. Families travel long distance, thousands of miles in each country just for a one-time reunion.
¿Está bien? Sí, sí. Lo quiero abrazar.
Every time I go there is a new experience. They teach me something new. Endurance, resistance, happiness, sadness.
Since the election of Donald Trump, fewer people in the last several months have come to the U.S. side of Friendship Park, a dramatic reduction.
They are really afraid of what could happen to them. They are afraid that the Border Patrol will stop them and deport them.
Here we try to do our best to provide a safe environment for our agents and provide a safe environment for our community as well.
This is the only place where the United States Border Patrol allows for these kinds of cross-border encounters. The wall is a symbol as much as it is a physical construct. If we can pioneer things at Friendship Park, a binational meeting place, a place of cultural exchange, a place of friendship, a place of communion, could become a model for elsewhere along the border. If we can get friendship right at Friendship Park, then why can't we get friendship right between the United States and Mexico?
Hi, we're here at Friendship Park with Maria, who's come for the first time and to visit with her family. Maria, can you tell us where you're from and why you're here today?
I'm from Lancaster, California, and I'm here for the first time to be able to have the opportunity to see my mom after 3 long years that I haven't seen her. The only way I had seen her was through pictures, and this is the first time I can actually see her face to face, although there's of course that fence dividing us, and I was able to touch her fingers. For me, it was very emotional. It's very hard to explain all the emotions that were happening. Happy to see her, but at the same time saddened to see that there's a wall, there's this fence dividing our families, and it's very painful at the same time.
And tell me your mother's name.
My mother's name is Maria Isabel Zavala Bernal.
And you had your brother was visiting with you?
Yes, and my little brother's actually with her. He is a U.S. citizen, and his name is Guillermo Daniel Baraja Zavala, and he's there supporting my mom, well, being with my mom, because also since my mom has, like, her leg is broken, like it's been very swollen and it's very painful for her.
Yeah.
But he's there with her. I told her to take care of her and vice versa.
Yeah. And so you're here also with supporting the Dreamers today, is that
yes,
right?
I am a dreamer as well. And I'm here with my family and friends who are supporting us, and also my older brother who's over there. He's the one who had to leave.
So there you have another glimpse of just the kind of family that depends on Friendship Park for these family reunions. And that, I hope, explains or gives some insight into why so many of us have fought so hard for so long to ensure that there is regular and routine and public access on the U.S. side of the park. There are several other such stories on our website, friendshippark.org, and I'll encourage you to browse and just hear some of the remarkable stories of people who have gone to such extraordinary lengths to be reunited with their loved ones at this historic location. And just one last time, reorient you to the space. We're going to be dropping down onto the Mexican side of the park, which, while you saw how dark and dreary and kind of foreboding the U.S. side is, if you've ever been to the Mexican side of Friendship Park, you know that it's a very different experience. On the street, on the Mexican side, the park is filled with color and life and energy. And at the center of the park stands this historic monument. This monument that stands at the very center of Friendship Park was in fact the original boundary marker established between the United States and Mexico. At the end of the US-Mexico War, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo had to, of course, create a new international boundary. And of course, on the Texas border, there was the Rio Grande River, the Rio Bravo, as it's called in Mexico. And there was a natural reason for a border there in some fashion. But west of El Paso, Juarez, there was simply nothing, and they had to create a border out of thin air, or they had to draw a border on the ground. The way they did that was by placing monuments at intervals along the length of that border. And the original Boundary Commission, which first met in 1850, met at this very location and established a monument right where that monument is today, which is why some people call it the birthplace of the border. In the 1890s, another binational commission with better cartographic instruments redrew that boundary, and this time they worked from east to west. They started at El Paso Juarez, the mouth of the Rio Grande River, and they worked to the west, and they placed 258 monuments and finished at this location, which is why the monument there is now denoted as monument number 258. And for that reason, many people don't recognize that it was in fact the first monument, the original boundary marker, and the very first monument put in place. So just to say that the changes on site at this monument across generations have been remarkable, but it's really only in the last few years that there has been this effort to effectively wall off Friendship Park from the public in both sides.